Mediumcore has, for a long time, been a punching bag within the Terraria community. It is constantly insulted, put down, and treated like trash. As somebody who played Mediumcore almost exclusively in 1.2 and 1.3, it feels like an old friend being harassed and insulted, one that isn't able to defend themselves and doesn't have anyone willing to stand up for them. Anyone else, that is. I will defend them, even if I have to stand alone to do it. Also, I'm going to refer to Classic as softcore in this video. Now, there are valid complaints about Mediumcore, and it isn't the difficulty for everyone. Inventory management and organization can get tedious when you're dropping your items, especially if you die a lot, and that can be frustrating. Terraria also isn't balanced around temporary or permanent item loss. Mediumcore does get too emotional after a couple of drinks, and they always want to message their ex. There is the possibility of losing items permanently, and invasions can be a nightmare if you didn't secure your spawn point. But just because it isn't the difficulty for you, doesn't make it a bad difficulty. The idea that Mediumcore is somehow worse than Hardcore, or is just Hardcore with extra steps, is one of the most absurd takes that I've heard, and I heard somebody claim that the boomstick was more accurate than the mini-choke a few days ago. I can understand being frustrated with Mediumcore if you typically play on Softcore. It is not a more challenging Softcore, it's a more casual Hardcore. If you go into it expecting Softcore, you might get your ass kicked, but I cannot fathom somebody going into Mediumcore viewing it as a more casual Hardcore, and then being frustrated that they got to keep playing instead of permanently dying. Do you genuinely believe that? Have you played Mediumcore? It's not difficult to get your items back. You'd rather reset the entire game than face a unique challenge for, what, 20 minutes? Is the idea of having to use suboptimal gear that off-putting? Even in the unlikely scenario where you lose your dropped items, you still have chests full of gear in your base. You've got your arenas and pylons already set up, your maximum HP and mana, and any shimmer buffs that you've consumed. You have your map data all filled out, NPC houses built, and bosses killed. The items that you carry are not most of your progression. Another common complaint that I hear is that Terraria isn't built to have you lose items, that it's heavily focused around progression, and if you die, you're pretty much completely screwed, and it's not really possible to get anything strong enough to get your items back, so you might as well just restart. I'm sorry, are we playing the same game? Terraria has plenty of easy to obtain weapons, equipment, and armor throughout the entire game. You just normally ignore them because they aren't optimal. Pretty much every tier of ore has a sword, a bow, and an armor that is perfectly serviceable for fighting off normal enemies. NPCs sell a lot of the tiers of wings in hard mode. The arms dealers sell the flintlock pistol and mini-choke in pre-hard mode, and the shotgun in hard mode. You've probably got the materials to upgrade that shotgun to an onyx blaster sitting around in chests, or you can get them easily. Once you're past the mech bosses, you've got extra hollowed bows and chlorophyte bows. You can make weapons and armor from those, and sure, the chlorophyte claymore isn't a terror blade, but it'll do fine at killing the jungle enemies to get you back to your terror blade. And oh no, you lost your pickaxe. You had to do the bare minimum of not selling your old pickaxes, which aren't even worth that much money anyways. Odds are, even if you sold your old pickaxes, you've got enough hard mode ores and chests to make a halfway decent one. Even if you're completely out of items, you can take dynamite to hell, blow up hellstone to craft a molten pick, and then mine some hard mode ores. It's anti-Mediumcore rhetoric like these arguments that I see parroted around the most. You take a valid complaint like, I think it's annoying dropping my items and it detracts from my fun, and then dial it up with hyperbole like, that makes it worse than Hardcore. I'd rather lose 20 hours than spend 20 minutes. Another example, it is completely reasonable to say Terraria isn't built around dropping items. It isn't. It makes the game a very different experience, and that isn't for everyone. That does not mean the game is unplayable and miserable if you drop items, and that it's unbalanced beyond salvaging because of the impossibility of getting equipment on tier. Just because it isn't designed to be played like that doesn't mean it can't be fun to play like that. There are quite a few people who like the idea of Hardcore but get frustrated at the idea of losing a world and character permanently. This type of person might play Hardcore with autopause on and save and quit whenever they're about to die, or fish characters out of the recycle bin because they can't stand to lose them. To put it another way, they want the risks and excitement of Hardcore but not the punishment. And Mediumcore is built for exactly that. It's a more forgiving Hardcore. You don't have to feel bad making elaborate houses or creations or spending time fishing for cell phone pieces because you won't lose them. And before you say anything about dropping the angler rewards, just put them in a void bag. Mediumcore is also a lot easier than you might remember if you've been playing Terraria for a while. It's only gotten easier as the game has been updated. For instance, the void bag lets you keep informational accessories and potions in it and still benefit from them, so you don't drop the items, just the bag. You can also suck up all the items you dropped into the bag and then teleport away. Pylons allow you to easily hop around the world, so you're never very far from the items you dropped. The treasure magnet lets you pick up items from further away, which is especially helpful if you died in lava. Potions of return exist now, and you can pick items up in a dangerous spot, teleport away, and then organize your inventory and teleport back to pick up the rest. You can also just pop them like candy to get closer and closer to your items. You can keep money in a piggy bank now and still use it, so you can purchase gear comfortably to help you recover items. And the sundial exists and can let you skip blood moons and eclipses instead of getting spawn camped by them. And sure, that's all nice, but why would you choose to play medium core over softcore or hardcore? What does it have that they don't? Well, I've got 4 good reasons. Number 1, it has a unique gameplay loop where you're forced to perform with subpar equipment, and it grants relevancy to normally useless items. It is easy to succeed with optimal gear. In softcore and hardcore, you will always have the best items and always use them. In medium core, you'll be put in situations where you won't. It's like a mini challenge run each time you die. You need to use something worse than you normally would to achieve results. Let's say you die in the Jungle Temple post-Plantera as melee. In softcore, it doesn't matter, you respawn with your gear. In hardcore, well, you died, you're dead. In medium core, you have to find a way into the temple with older gear, so what do you use? Well, maybe you mine a bunch of chlorophyte, so you make a chlorophyte saber, which can attack through blocks, and you use your old set of hollowed armor. You buy leaf wings from the witch doctor since you have plenty of money saved in your piggy bank, and then you teleport to the jungle pylon, saving you the trouble of walking most of the way back, and fight your way into the temple with a weapon and wings that you normally would never use. You get a rush of adrenaline from the challenge and risk, and it's very satisfying to pull off. It's really fun facing that challenge and overcoming it. Here's another example. You are early in the game and died in the corruption when trying to get a light pet from shadow orbs. You don't have much money, but you have 6 gold saved in your piggy bank. So you buy the flintlock pistol, some ammo, and some rope. The flintlock pistol is normally useless, but in this situation, it's great. It's an affordable ranged weapon that can fight off all the corruption enemies while you make your way back and climb down on the rope. Situations like that can be a really fun way to mix up gameplay. It's a puzzle to solve, with as many answers as your creativity allows, and there's a level of excitement and risk from the danger. Number 2 is that it teaches you risk assessment and management in a way that the other difficulties don't. On softcore, there is almost no reason not to take risks. Dying doesn't matter. You die and you wait 15 seconds? Maybe you have to make another boss summoning items and you might drop some money if you didn't store it in a piggy bank for some reason. You barely get punished for being risky, so why would you not take them constantly? Conversely, in hardcore, risks are extremely punishing. You lose your character, so you play in an extremely risk-averse way. You over-prepare until the odds of dying are as low as possible. You are constantly ready to bail out of any remotely dangerous situation with a recall potion, and you don't learn what risks you can and can't take, you just avoid all of them. Medium core toes the line in the middle. You do get punished for dying, you want to avoid it, but you can make mistakes so you don't avoid every risk like the plague. You also have to take risks sometimes. Going back to get your dropped items is risky. So how do you use other items you have to do it? You push the line of what you can and can't do. Invasions are another great example. You ask yourself, can I kill goblins like this? In softcore, you'll succeed through attrition no matter what. In hardcore, you aren't going to try unless you're certain. In medium core, you'll have to decide whether it's a risk you're willing to take yet. If you do die, that's more risk assessment. What is your backup plan? What weapons can you take out of a chest to fight them off? Do you try to get your items back first or kill the goblins first? You didn't lose because you died. You were put in a disadvantageous position. How are you going to use your skill and game knowledge to fight back? Number 3, if you typically play on softcore, medium core will make you better at the game. More effectively than hardcore, I would argue, because medium core lets you learn from your mistakes and keep going. Plenty of people try to improve by playing hardcore and then find it too difficult and give up because of permanently dying and losing hours. Medium core is a training ground. You will learn how to die less by playing it. And number 4, it can be a fun multiplayer experience with a small group of friends. I used to play a lot of medium core multiplayer back in 1.2 and 1.3. Hardcore multiplayer never goes well, but medium core creates this interesting dynamic where you're playing together and helping each other. A lot of the times that I've done multiplayer, it's more like a few people playing the game at the same time rather than playing it together. Outside of boss fights, there's not much reason to do things together. But when you die in medium core, that is an opportunity to help each other. You escort the other player back to their body, or you retrieve their gear for them. Obviously, you won't want to do this in large multiplayer games or on difficulties where you're dying constantly, but it can make multiplayer more engaging with friends. Now, if you do decide to play on medium core, be sure to do these 4 basic things. The first and the single most important thing in medium core, keep equipment backups. Don't get rid of old weapons and armor. Save them in chests. You will need them. Pickaxes and accessories too. The second is to set a safe spawn location. Particularly during invasions, avoiding spawn camping is key. Make sure you respawn somewhere safe by using a bed in a safe house. Keep your emergency gear in there or close enough for you to access when you die. Thirdly, remember that your items are dropped on the ground, not lost. It's really not that difficult to get them back most of the time. There's no time pressure, so you can take it slowly. Don't exit the world, this will despawn the items. They're going to remain on the ground for an unlimited time as long as you don't reach the dropped items limit of 400 and you don't leave the game. Lava also destroys very few items, only items of white rarity. If you died in lava, just dig underneath it or bring an obsidian skin potion. And lastly, remember that it's your game and it's up to you how to play it. It is perfectly fine to realize that you prefer softcore and not having to worry about dying, or to say that you feel like hardcore challenges you better and you like the higher stakes. If you don't feel like playing Mediumcore, you can edit your character in a program like Terraria or just make a new character to play on the same world. You can also potentially restore a backup in mygame/Terraria/players if you lost a lot of items and are upset about it. Mediumcore isn't for everyone, but it does have a lot of interesting quirks and can be a really fun experience. I know that I would not be nearly as good at the game if Mediumcore didn't exist, and it gets far too much negativity and hatred from the community. Give it a try, you might be surprised.